is realizing that there's always going to be people that can help you. There's always going to be more money that you can make, and realizing that there's people that just want to support you. And I think in business, I used to have a scarcity mindset that there's only so many clients that I could have, there's only so much money I could make, but realizing that there's infinite possibilities out there, and that even if you have competitors in your space, I always thought competitors were bad, but I realized that, at least in the business space that I'm currently in, I know that there's enough clients to go around that we can all be successful, and realizing that just because you're successful doesn't mean that someone else can't be successful. My abundant mindset was realizing that there's just enough to go around, and that it's okay if my competitor gets a client because I'll get another client. And again, there's enough money to go around to make you successful, and you can't live in that sort of scarcity mindset where you can't afford it, where you try to figure out how you can afford it.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Trevor Oldham, who paid off $90,000 in student debt in 1 year. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. Today's quote comes from Plato in the Republic. The beginning is the most important part of the work. Today, we have a guest who is essentially at the beginning of his life. Listen in to the work he does in the beginning, in the steps he's already taken to build life on his terms with massive results in a short period of time. Before we move on, last week's action step was, am I where I want to be in every part of my life? If not, take action, pivot, and thrive. It's your life. You got to choose. Today, we're going to hear how Trevor continually does that. He's not only building wealth and chasing money, he's focused on building life. As you listen today, see if you can find the themes, the universal principles on how to create harmony in your life. I'm always thrilled when I can have someone on that's young and figuring out a better way to live. And it's not about greed and more. I'm really thankful, though, that I have finally found that place for me, and I enjoy what I do now. I truly serve people, and I help them. And I also make money. You can't beat that. I will admit, it took me years to figure this out. It's not easy, but if you take the time to slow down, think, and examine, and go deep inside yourself, it will happen. The answers are within you. There's not something else that you need. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to experiment until you get it right. Just remember, it's your life recipe, not somebody else's. And I think that's why so many people struggle. They follow someone else's recipe, and that's not their harmonious life. Trevor Oldham is a 23-year-old founder of Podcasting U, a six-figure podcast booking agency. Trevor recently launched his personal finance website, Building Wealth Made Simple, where he teaches others the exact strategies that he used to pay off $91,795.10 in student loan debts in 1 year. Let's meet our guest and hear his story. Welcome to Rich Your Soul, Trevor Oldham. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you, Rocky. Excited to be here.
And I'm excited to learn from you. Let's start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
I think my family in school, not so much school, but more my family taught me a lot about money. And the way that I looked at it is growing up, is that we always had enough to get by, but never, I want to say, more than that. And that was sort of my mindset when I was growing up. My dad is a school teacher, and my mom worked in retail sales. So I always had things I wanted, but there was never more than that. And I think that's sort of the mindset that I had, that people didn't necessarily have a lot of money, and that's sort of the way it was. And sort of the turning point for me is when I went to college. I got out on my own, and I started to realize that people see the world in a different lens, and they have different money mindsets. And then I got reading into like Dave Ramsey and seeing how people can get out of debt. And I think knowing what I know now and looking back, I can just see like how my parents have credit card debt, how they've taken out a mortgage that's probably a little bit more expensive that they can afford, how they have car loans, and how all that debt affected them when I was growing up by being able to afford these different items. So I guess looking back now, I can see sort of how that mindset created, and sort of like that scarcity mindset, where in business now I've had to sort of have that abundance mindset and understand that people can afford, services, at a higher price point. So really for me growing up, it was in that scarcity mindset, but it was as I got older and started to reflect a little bit, turned me towards more of an abundance mindset.
So was there something in college that caused that shift? Like, where did that, what was the catalyst behind the shift?
I think for me, it was I just started reading books. I started reading business books, entrepreneurship books, and I realized that there are these people out there that are making a lot of money, basically as much money as my parents were making in a year, making that much money almost in a month, sometimes even in a day. And I just started reading about them. I started following them on social media outlets, even on Facebook. I deleted all my friends that were negative, and I added like all these entrepreneur people. So when I would go on Facebook, I would see all these people being successful and making these large amounts of money in their business. And over time, I think it allowed me to develop that mindset that it is entirely possible to go out there and make a lot of money, that people can afford it. And I think that's what changed my abundance mindset, was just reading about people that were successful and people that had made a lot of money, and learning that it is entirely possible to not have to worry about money and to not have that as a stressor in your life.
And you were lucky to do that at a very young age. And I think you brought about an important point. We are the average of the 5 people around us. And the same thing on social media. You are the average of the people that you hang out with. And you did something very smart there, which was to delete all the negative people in your life, and to change the group that are around you so that you're surrounded by people who are successful. And when that happens, you naturally kind of can step up and, as you say, be abundant.
That's the biggest thing for me is always being surrounded people that are going to be positive, people that are going out there and doing big things. And even if I don't know these people on Facebook personally, but just seeing their achievements, and then again, reading books, going onto YouTube, watching videos, because where I am, there wasn't, especially in college, there's not that many people that are going out there and trying to start their own business and do better for themselves. So for me, it was just using sort of those outside sources that, again, even if I wasn't connected to them personally, at least I could follow their journey and sort of inspire me.
So was college worth it?
Looking back on it now, not worth the price tag I paid, but the biggest thing for me when it came to college was I went to a college about an hour, 15 minutes away from my hometown and where I lived. And that was the first time in my life that I was on my own. And I started to see that people had different ideas from me, from the town that I had lived in. And it sort of allowed me to have my own thinking. And looking back on it, I felt as though I had the same thinking growing up. I had the same friends pretty much through, grade 1 all the way through high school. And we always had that same sort of thinking. And it was that first time in my life where I almost was able to think for myself. And it was when I was able to think for myself, that's when I really started to get more into business. So from that standpoint, it was good, got me out of my comfort zone, pushed me away from where I was comfortable. But when it comes to, again, that price tag and paying almost $90,000 on a four-year degree, at that standpoint, I don't think it was worth it. But if someone is going to college, I would definitely recommend not taking out that much in student loans, because I think there is benefits to it. We're knowing if something ever happened in my business and I was unsuccessful and I had to go out there and get a job, just to hold myself over for 6 months or 12 months, it's going to be a lot easier with a college degree than just having a standard high school diploma.
And that's somewhat true. It really depends on who you want to work for. Because you have business experience, if you go to a small business owner, he's not going to care about what paper you have. He's going to care about the success that you've had and how you can help him grow his business. Now, if you want to go work in corporate America, yeah, you need that piece of paper as a ticket in the door, unfortunately. But hopefully that is changing over time, and we're not doing that. That was still, so you actually got out of college for under $100,000, which in today's world is unfortunately considered cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So when you graduated, you had a ton of debt, didn't you?
I did. It was about 90,000 to be exact. It was about 89,500 and then some change.
And let's take a step back, because I don't think the audience realizes when did you graduate college?
I graduated in May of 2019.
So May of 2019, and it's now December 2020. So we're about a year and a half away, correct?
Correct.
What have you done with the debt?
So I entirely paid it off. I actually made my first payment on September 30th of 2019, and I made my last payment on September 30th, 2020. It just happened to be a coincidence. So I like to say that I got all the loans entirely paid off within a 1-year period.
How does a young person like yourself pay off almost, $90,000 in debt in 1 year?
Thinking about it, it's almost like the journey started in 2017. So in college, I had started a small business. I'm sure Rocky will get into it later. And it was really, I started this business not really sure what was going to come out of it. I was just trying to make some extra income while I was going to college. And in the first year, I made about $10,000 in the business. And at the end of that first year, I thought that maybe this business can be something that I do, more full time. Let's try to get a go at it. Let's try to make more money from it. And then my second year of college, and at this point, I was a senior in college. I was able to make $50,000 while still going to school, and then being my third year out and graduating, being able to develop a lot more money from my business. So it's sort of those steps that I started in 2017 where I had started the business. And I don't want to say it was easy. I had transferred school, so I had to take 6 classes a semester to make sure that I graduated on time. I wasn't exactly sure if the business was going to be successful, so I still wanted to have some internships, and I interned throughout the school year. I was really just starting in 2017, starting that business, and then realizing after the first year I can grow it, making $50,000 while still going to school. And at that point, I just didn't even pay any money on my student loans while going to school. I don't know why. I didn't even think that was an option, but I really kicked it into high gear once I had graduated. And the big kicker with that is I started to charge a high ticket for my service. And the way that my business works is we charge $3,000 to $5,000. And I found that people are willing to pay that price, and it's easier, getting 2 clients a month or 3 clients a month at a $5,000 price point. That's $15K minus, the business expenses that I had, leaves me with a net $10K per month. And then my expenses were, I tried to live almost like a college student, again, live very cheap. So I was, staying about that $10,000 mark per month in income. And when I look at the $90,000 in debt that I had, it starts to make sense when you add it up over time. And I had a little bit of money saved up, about $10,000 from just going to college that I had saved up through working, and I just threw that on my loans too. So it was really just a culmination of starting that business a couple of years prior.
So right now in the news, everyone is talking about cancel college debt and give everyone money off of their college debt. I'd love to hear, what do you think about that?
I think personally, I don't agree with the idea, and here's why. I made the poor decision to go to, I made the good decision to go to a state school, but I made the poor decision to take out all these monies all this money in student loan. And I realized that there were scholarships available that I could have put more money while I was going through school. And I think that amazes me when people think that they took out $90,000 as an example to go get a degree where they get a job that pays them $40,000 a year. And I think people are sold on this promise of the purpose of going to college is to get a high paying degree. But people, again, take out these large amounts of student loans and there's no guarantee on it. So for myself, I had to really grind in that first year and live really low to pay off my student loans. And I don't think people should just have them wiped off. Like, it was your decision. You made this choice. I made this choice. It was up to me to figure out how I'm going to pay off my student loans. I knew that the federal government was going to come in and cancel it, and I wasn't going to rely on the federal government to do that. And I think too many people just think it's going to be a wish granted that, let's say Joe Biden comes in and he's going to wipe out student loans. Well, that might be great, but what about, 10 years from now when kids continue to stake out student loans? Are we going to continue to wipe them out? I just don't think that's something that's feasible. And I think people have to take more responsibility for their life when they're making that decision, when they're going to college, to realize that, this is a lot of money that you're going to be taking out and there's no guarantee that you're getting a job. And just taking more self-responsibility for themselves and going out there and doing whatever they can, scraping by, grinding to make sure that they can pay off those student loans.
And I think that's an important thing to realize. I think in the past, everyone was told, go to college, get a great job. In today's world, go to college, get a great job is not necessarily true. And it really depends on the major that you go after in college. There's a considerable differential there. And, if you're in high tech or medicine or something like that, sure. But there's many degrees that it doesn't matter where you get your degree from. You're guaranteed to never make much money because the particular pursuit you went after is just not profitable. And so you really need to weigh the cost of college versus what the long-term perspective is for income.
Exactly. And I think when I made the decision to go to college, I initially wanted to go into finance. So looking back, I think that it was a good decision to do, and I ended up switching my majors over a little bit. But I think if someone's going there for a degree that, I don't know, art history as an example, or communications, things like that, where even I run a PR company now. I never went to school. I didn't take any classes on PR. I might have taken one marketing class, and that's a skill that I think that you can learn. And I can tell you, as a business owner, when I hire my employees, I don't care where they went to school. I don't even care if they finished high school. If they can do the job and they can get it done quickly and efficiently, and we in a client facing business, as long as they can do a good job, the clients are happy with them. I honestly, I couldn't even tell you where any of my employees went to college, or even if they finished high school, as long as they can get the job done.
And I think that's something that people need to realize is when you're looking at jobs with small business owners, they don't care about all that stuff. All they care about is, can you serve our clients? Can you get the job done? And can you do it without drama? And if you can do that, you get paid well and you have success. And you don't need all of this other stuff that everyone tells you that you need to have. So let's take a step back. What was your first business?
So my first business, I guess very, very first business, is I actually started importing phone cases from China, and I was importing them from Alibaba and AliExpress. For those of you who are listening who may not know, they allow you to wholesale products directly from China. So I imported 50 phone cases. They were about $80 total from Alibaba. Sold those on eBay for about $10 a pop. But I learned that early on in Alibaba and AliExpress, I know they've gotten a little bit better now, but I was buying name brand products, and at that point they were knockoffs. And I think they were like Spidging phone cases. I think that was the brand. And if all my eBay customers knew that they were knockoffs as soon as I got them, so I got them all sent back. And I realized that it's great to wholesale these prices because they were super cheap when you talk about the cost of them, but I shouldn't be not buying a name brand product. And that led me to still searching out on the sites, and I came across on AliExpress. I bought these bracelets and watches that were $1 and $2, one for a bracelet, $2 for a watch. And I built that brand up, and I sold the watches for $20, and I sold the bracelets for $18, I believe.
So let's just look at the profit margins here. You bought the watches for how much?
$2.
And you sold them for?
$20.
And here's where people with e-commerce get it wrong. they think they can buy something for $10 and sell it for $20. But by the time you pay Amazon and shipping, you're broke.
Mm-hmm.
You have to buy $2 products and sell them for $20, and then you have some chance of margin to actually cover all the costs of shipping and their fees. It's funny because when I was a kid, and this is a long time ago, I used to go into New York City and buy stuff and split it up and sell it to my high school and college friends. So the concept has always been proven. People always want to buy stuff. And if you can figure out how to get a reasonable margin, then it works out. But you've got to have those kinds of margins. So what happened with that business?
So I started selling those bracelets and watches. And on one hand, I felt good that I partnered with a charity called Waves for Water, and they provide water filters for people in developing countries. So on one hand, partnering with this charity, I felt good. And to give a little bit more of a background, was from the Cape Cod, Massachusetts area. So I was down by the ocean. So all these items were going to be nautical themed. So it seemed nice to partner with the charity. I was inspired by some of these entrepreneurs that I was following. But on the other hand, I knew that I was importing these products directly from China. And I don't even want to imagine, the person who was making them. I can imagine it was probably, it could be someone under 18, someone very young, and, maybe getting paid a nickel or 10 cents. And I couldn't sleep with that, knowing I was on one hand donating to this charity, but on the other hand, I was making these bracelets and watches, and they were, getting super cheap from China. So I wanted to switch up the brand a little bit. Again, I was a little bit inspired by the entrepreneurs that I was following at the time. So I started a clothing line with that company and sort of moved off those bracelets and watches. And the company line was good. I used, I believe, Comfort Colors was the brand, American made, had everything made in the US. And I realized that after about 6 to 12 months of running that company, it wasn't something that I was passionate about. It was more just a business to get me started. And I kind of just fell off. I wasn't making a huge amount of money. It was probably anywhere on a good month, maybe $300, on a bad month, maybe $100. It was never like this major brand, but it was just that start onto entrepreneurship and to see how the world of e-commerce works.
And I think that's an important thing. You do things many times with the purpose of learning. And in both of these cases, you made money. So you got paid to learn. And it's always great to get paid to learn, whether you can find an opportunity and a job for somebody, or you just try something on the side and you do it. I mean, at the end of the day, if I were to buy 100 items at $2, that's $200. That's a very small investment. And then you go out and did you sell them on an established site, or did you create your own website?
So I created my own website and then just sold them through Shopify.
Okay. So then you have to learn how to drive traffic, or you can go on one of the established platforms and try. But it's all about learning and understanding how that all works. And you can do that for very little. So how much did it cost you to build your website?
I think I built the website myself, and actually, I guess stepping back a little bit, as my company, it was running, and I just wanted to learn how to build a better business. I think I initially had it on Wix, and I realized Wix wasn't user friendly, and it was a little bit more difficult to use. So I wanted to figure out something else to do, but I wasn't sure. So there was these 3 companies in our industry. I believe one was called SandCloud, one was called Pure Vita Bracelets, and one was called Blenders Eyewear, and they were all based out of Southern California, and they had started to brand, different products than mine. But I just reached out to the founders, and I was like, hey, I think at that time I'm an 18-year-old entrepreneur. Do you mind if I just talk to you? I just want to learn how you build your company. And then when I have them on the phone, I said, how did you build your website? And they all told me Shopify. And at that point, I still didn't have enough money to go out there and hire someone. But I was like, if these 3 successful entrepreneurs are using Shopify, then I should move over from Wix to Shopify, and did that. And I just built the website for myself. I think the cost to use it was $30 a month. And I went to YouTube. I watched tutorials on how to build a Shopify site. I probably spent maybe $50 on a pre-made template to make look a little bit nicer than the free templates that Shopify gives you. So all in, maybe the cost was, $30 for the month and then $50 for the template. So it was very cheap.
And this is the message I want to get out to people. It is not hard to start. It is not expensive to start. If you want to try something different, there are opportunities, and it doesn't cost a lot in money. It costs in time. And if you've got money, well, then you just pay somebody to do this for you, and that's fine. But you've got to figure out where you are in the sequence and be able to do that. So what happened next?
So after I was running the Trevor James Products Company and decided I was no longer going to do that, so that was, I want to say, the end or beginning of my junior or freshman to sophomore year of college. And I realized that I wanted to motivate, inspire college students to go out there and launch their own business, just to be more motivated all around. And I had this idea one night of starting a company called Become the Line. And I actually started that company, and it was a motivational based company. And you can picture it if you go on Instagram and you see people with these motivational quotes. That's basically what my company did. And this was, I believe I was still a freshman in college, and I was running this in conjunction with the clothing line company that I had. And this company actually grew rather quickly. Within the first year, we had 600,000 social media followers. We also had a website. I had a podcast at that time interviewing entrepreneurs. We came out with a book. We had courses. So I was running that company. That company was going good. You know, it was crazy how quickly we grew in such a short period of time. But again, with this company, and again, it was another learning curve. From the clothing line, I learned how to sort of build a brand on Instagram, how that sort of worked. And I was able to parlay it into this new company, Become the Line. And with Become the Line, I realized after about 2.5 years of running that company, at this point I was still going to college, that people love motivational content. They'll like, share, and comment on it all day long. We would get anywhere from 2,000 likes on an Instagram post to 10,000 and more, and get tons of comments. But when we turned around and said, hey, check out our course on a morning routine, or hey, purchase this new book that we wrote, it would sort of be crickets. And I found that it's hard to sell people love getting motivated, but when it comes to buying your product or service, it's a little bit different.
And this is one of those secrets that people need to understand. Here you are with 600,000 followers who are giving you thousands of likes per day, but there's no money. It's all fake. I've always been, I think the joke I heard is being an Instagram success is like winning at the game of Monopoly. It's all fake money, right? It's all fake reputation. And unless there's actual money behind it, doesn't matter how many people like you or how many people follow you. What matters is whether or not they're willing to spend money on what you have to sell and whether they're willing to take action. So why do you think it is that people want to talk about motivation, but they don't take action?
I find that most people like the idea of being successful, but when it comes down to building a website, sourcing your products, or building out your service, finding clients, finding customers, like that's a lot of work, and that's going to take up the majority of your time. So people like this idea of starting the business and making an additional 1,000 a month or 10,000 a month, or being able to quit their corporate job and do their business full time. People love that idea, but when it comes down to doing the hard work, that's where it's going to stop a lot of people in their tracks, when they realize that it's going to take 5 years to build a sustainable business, and you're going to have to work at it every day. And there's going to be points where you're going to lose money. There's going to be times where you try something out and it just doesn't work. So I think people want the easy road to success. And when they see a motivational quote that says, people never sleep, they only work, something along those lines, it sounds good. But when you get down to it, I don't think I know of anyone that follows that sort of criteria where they're never going to sleep. Maybe Gary V, he might be one of those people. But for most people, it's just going to take a long time to build a successful business. And that short little push of adrenaline comes from seeing those motivational quotes.
And I'm always shocked at how many people won't take action. You can do this fast, you can do it slow, but you got to show up and do the work. And that's what is the struggle, is people don't always want to show up and do the work. It takes time, and it does take years to build these types of things up. Everyone looks at the success. They don't realize the 10 years of hard work that is behind it. And again, you have to figure out for your life. I'm not a big fan of working 24/7. I'm a much bigger fan of having harmony in life. And there are ways to do it. It's going to be slower, but that's okay. You enjoy the journey and you continue on. So what happened next?
So I was running Become Lion, and I just felt, again, after about 2.5 years, I just felt burnt out, and it was at a point where I was waking up at 4 a.m., going to bed at 8 p.m., not having time. And I was still coming to college, so I wouldn't really have any time with my friends. I was working Saturday and Sunday, just working around the clock. And it got to a point where I was like, I'm not making that much money. What am I doing this for? I'm almost like killing myself by working this much. And I just wanted to take a step back, take a step on the sidelines. And I just but I still had these skills. I still wanted to make money online. Wasn't exactly sure how that was going to happen. And I just signed up for a site called Upwork. And on Upwork, I just started freelancing. I looked for people that needed help using some of the skills I had learned previously, which consisted of editing podcasts, writing blog posts. And actually one day I came across this woman. She's based out of LA. She's a real estate turnkey investor. And she put a listing out there saying that she wanted to get booked on podcasts. And I thought to myself, well, I had my own podcast for a while, and I booked guests on my show. How hard could it be to get her booked on shows? Had a conversation with her, sounded like a good opportunity, and just started working with her. Built a pitch similar to like a pitch I would use to get clients on my show, but a pitch for her to get her on shows. Just started working with her. Found out that I was pretty decent at it, and I just kept going back to Upwork. I would go on every day, and I would just search for people that wanted to get booked on podcasts. I would apply to their jobs, have a conversation with them, and I just started to pick up clients like that. And Rocky, as you mentioned, it's very cheap to go out there and start a business. But this next business that is now called Podcasting You, I didn't have a website for the first year. I just found all my clients in that first year primarily just through Upwork. I didn't spend any marketing. I didn't have anything on a website. The only thing I had is every day I would go on to Upwork and just see if people want to get booked on podcasts. And it really wasn't even into that second year. I didn't even think I had a website or even put any marketing spend behind the company.
And that's what I think people need to realize. Too often when people want to start a business, they're like, I need a business card. I need a website. I need a this. I need a that. You don't need any of that. You can actually create a website, so to speak, or a business page on Google for free. And it takes about 10 minutes, if that, I think. And it's really easy to do. So if you need a web presence, there you go. What you more so have to find is somebody who's got a problem and is willing to pay you money to help you solve the problem. And then you go figure out how to solve the problem. And then you continue to learn, and then you continue to grow, and then you continue to go up market. Today's episode is sponsored by Profit Answer Man Podcast. Did you know that most small business owners hate looking at their financials? It's one reason they may struggle with business success. The Profit Answer Man podcast helps them ensure they are profitable and can pay their employees and weather the storms we all have to face. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. So what happened next?
So I was just running the Podcasting You. So I was still in college. I started it actually in December of 2017. So now we're going to be going on more than 3 years now. So this is, again, running it from my dorm room. I want to say about a year into the company, I realized that I had something going. I was making some good money. At least for a college student, $1,000, $2,000 a month as a college student seemed pretty good to me at the time, where some of my college friends are going out there and working at jobs, that were maybe probably paying them $10, $12 an hour. So I was making good money by my standards, but I realized that I wanted to continue to grow it. But if I wanted to do that, it wasn't going to be all on my own. So I went out there again, went on Upwork, and I put a job out there to hire an assistant who could help me out and manage the clients, and hired her. She was based out of Colorado, and I realized through hiring her, I could offload the clients that we had onto her. And so now all of a sudden, instead of taking, let's say, if I was managing 5 clients, all of a sudden she can manage 5 clients and I can manage 5 clients, and sort of worked like that, started to grow the company. And I realized that the value of having employees is imperative to growing my business, and that I didn't want to be pitching clients forever. So continue to build on a team. Now we're up to a team of 3 employees, including myself, and they handle all the podcast pitching for our clients. They handle all the scheduling, and I handle more of the sales and the marketing aspects of the business. And that was a big thing for me, was realizing that getting out of the things I didn't necessarily like to do. And I realized I don't want to pitch people forever. I wanted to hire a team, and my team is able to go out there and do that. But it was based off me going out there and doing it myself for the first year and a half of the business, of figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and then making sure that I had the systems and processes in place down to a T, so that when I wanted to go out there and hire these additional people to come onto my team and help, that it's going to be very beneficial if I've already done it for myself and I see what works. And then something I also think is worth mentioning is, early on, I believe I had about 6 employees with the company, and they were all working, I want to say 10 to 15 hours per week. But what I realized now, looking back on it, is that I would rather I actually cut the team in half, and I gave the 3 best people I kept on, and I gave them more hours to work. So now they work like 20 to 30 hours a week for me. And I realized that when you find good employees, you want to make sure that you keep them. They're going to be imperative to growing your business, to sustaining your business. So I figured I wanted to have as few employees, but be the most productive company, because I don't want to have to run a team of 10 or 20 people. It just seems like more headaches than what it's worth. And I think, again, that's another vanity metric. Much like having 600,000 social media followers, it seems good, and having 20 employees might seem good, but at the end of the day, if it's causing you headaches, or if it's not being as productive as you want it to be, what's really the point in it?
And that's true. I think there are a ton of vanity metrics that are out there, and you've brought about another one. I have a team of 20 people, and that's all well and good. And you can say you managed a team of 20 people, but what if you could get a team of 3 people who did the same amount of work, and you all made more money, and you all had less hassles? That to me sounds like a much better path. And it's counterintuitive, and it's countercultural, but it works. And it's how I prefer to build my business and do my business as well. There's no reason to do that. And it's a constant conversation that I'm having with people. It's like, do you want a $5 million business that pays you $300,000? Or would you rather be happy with a $600,000 business that pays you $300,000 and requires you to work a fifth of the time? Like, you give up the 80%. It goes back to the 80-20 rule. Give up the 80% that provides no value, have a lot more time freedom and life freedom and a lot less stress and hassles, and end up with the same or more money. Like, it's the perfect plan.
And that's something that I really realized too, is that I didn't want to have, for me, I didn't want to have to manage a team of 20 people. It just seemed like too much, even managing. I was still going to college and managing these team members, that it wasn't something that I wanted to do. And it was, again, looking at the profit and what our company is making, and how can we get by with fewer employees but still doing an incredible job for our clients. And I realized that there's certain tasks such as pitching clients, that I need to have someone on staff for, and to always be working for our clients. But when it comes to someone that does the website development, I can go out and I can hire someone and pay them a small fee of $500 or $1,000 to make changes to my website. I don't have to have them on as a team member. I don't have to have like a web developer on my team. If I need someone if I want to create a new lead magnet and I want to create like a free ebook, I can go out and I can hire someone to do that. I don't have to have that person on my staff. And I think there's enough, when building a business, at least for me, it was critical to realize the points where I actually needed to hire someone, and I needed to have them working with us on a consistent basis. And then also delegating the tasks, such as we have someone write blog posts for us and we hire them. We don't have an on-staff person that writes blog posts for our company. We outsource it and she writes 1 blog post a week for us, and we pay her fee. And realizing that I don't have to have a full-time content marketer on our team. I can just outsource it, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than having someone on the staff full-time.
And I think this is the way that the world is going. We're going to essentially the gig economy. And so people have the ability to do what they're good at, not hassle with all the other stuff. And instead of working for one employer, your blog post writer might be working for 20 or 30 employers. Mm-hmm. And if one of them goes out of business or fires her, so what? You've got 28 other people. And if you're good, you'll have a backlog of clients so that you have stability, you have freedom, you're doing what you enjoy and love, and you're making money. And it's all good. You just got to change the way you think about all this stuff. So what happened next? You're still in college and still building this.
Yeah, so still in college. So I graduated in May of 2019 and continued on with the business. I was making, enough money to cover the bills. And it was back in March of this year, 2020. I was getting by. I was covering the bills and the expenses and, being able to pay off my student loans a little bit. But I realized that if I wanted to have a life where I could build actual wealth for myself, where I could save money to invest how I wanted and to build sort of the lifestyle that I was looking for, the business at the time wasn't going to be able to sustain that. And the reason I say that is early on, to get clients, I worked as almost like as a pay-as-you-go service. And what I mean by that is when I would go out and get a new client. When I got them booked on a podcast interview, the day of their interview, I would invoice them for the amount that we had. Well, it was easy to get clients that way, but what I learned is especially when I built a team, is we might take on a client and my employee gets them booked on a podcast out 2 or 3 months in advance, and I still got to pay my employee that day for the work that she put in, and I'm not getting paid back for a 3-month period. And I realized, like, I'm running a podcast agency. I'm not a bank. I don't want to be loaning out, almost like loaning out this money to my clients, for paying my employees, and then they're not going to be paying me for a while. So I wanted to make a switch, and that's where I switched over to charging a higher price point. I had people paying the invoice up front. So again, we charge $3,000 to $5,000, and I learned that early on it was scary charging that higher price point, but I realized that as many people out there that complain that you charge a high price, there's just as many people that don't even bat an eye when I tell them that price point, and there are people that are more than willing to pay it. And once I sort of made that change and I started charging a higher price point, it was a lot easier, because now all of a sudden, if I just get 2 or 3 new clients a month, I'm able to live the lifestyle that I want and continue to grow the business at a little bit slower pace, but something that I'm more comfortable with than always having to find new clients and to be billing them on a monthly basis. And especially for cash flow, it makes it a lot easier having these clients on these higher packages and paying us a lot more versus a client that, this month they have 1 podcast, they're paying us $100. Then the following month they have 6 podcasts and they're paying us $600. So it was a little bit harder to predict every single month exactly how it's going to be coming, how much money I was going to have coming in. But now, by charging these higher price points, having a little bit fewer clients, but again, more money coming in, I'm able to determine, like, all right, if I want to go out and sponsor a podcast, or if I want to go out there and sponsor an event, know exactly how much money is going to be coming in this month and next month is on the books. It makes it a lot easier when it comes to business decisions, especially pulling money out. And again, if I wanted to hire an additional employee or for anything like that, it just makes it all around a little bit easier.
And that it does. So on the one side, you're very driven and you're always charging forward and doing all these things. But on the other side, you're like, you seem to want to enjoy life as well. How have you figured out that harmony?
Looking back, I think it's really that company become the line and realizing I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. and 8 p.m. where I didn't really get to enjoy my life that much. And I realized that at the end of the day, there's only so much that I can do in my business. I know that I have sales calls I have to take, I have interviews I have to do, and sometimes those things are just out of my control. And I realized that if I just keep taking consistent action every day, if you really get down to it, and if you really work 8 to 10 hours a day and you're focused on your work, you can get a lot done versus someone who's going to be unfocused and trying to get 12 to 14 hours done. So when it's time to work, I make sure that I get the work done. And it goes back to every week I set up a checklist for myself and I just mark down what are the absolute tasks that I have to get done. Sometimes it might be onboarding a new client. Sometimes it might be trying out a new marketing service that I have to get some information over to them. And I make note of that. And as I go throughout the week, I structure my days based on what I have to get done. So typically, like a Monday are the items I have to get done, absolutely have to get done today. If not, most certainly by the end of Tuesday. And then the items I set for myself to do on Friday, like if I don't get to them, it's not the end of the world. I can, move them to the following week. And I structure myself like that. And I find that I try to push myself, early in the week, but as it gets later in the week, I like to, take it a little bit more easy. And I found that generally works best for me. And that's allowed me to create a little bit more harmony in my life. And there's some weeks where I don't have that much that I need to absolutely get done. There's no big tasks and that's okay. And then there are, of course, other weeks where I have a lot going on. There's, a new landing page being created. There's a lead magnet being created. There's a lot going on for ourselves. So I think just finding that ebb and flow, and then also learning not to push myself too hard. And that was something I really encountered with Become the Lion. There would be points where I would just continue to push myself. I felt exhausted. I wasn't getting enough sleep at night, but I just continued pushing myself forward. And I would get to a point where I didn't even want to work on the business for 2 weeks because I was just so drained out. And I never want to get back to that place. And I always find that when I'm working really hard, if I force myself to take, some time off, especially on the weekends, by the time Monday rolls around, I feel refreshed, I feel rejuvenated, and really able to get back after it again, and just sort of self-assessing myself into making sure it doesn't happen again.
And that makes total sense. When you do the hard stuff first, then everything else becomes easy. And then, like you said, you get your hard stuff done early in the week or in the day. And then as the day goes on, it gets easier and easier. And so as you get more tired, the work gets easier and it gets done. But you have to schedule and plan it and follow the plan and make sure that you get your important rocks done. And then everything else will just work out, because a lot of stuff is irrelevant. But I think too often people do the busy irrelevant and then they don't get their rocks done. And so it's important to appropriately plan out your day and your time. So is this where you're at currently in the business? Is this the full story, or is there anything else on that line?
Yep. So this is the full story. I think, I'm starting my next little adventure, going into the new year. So I launched a personal finance blog called Building Wealth Made Simple, where I tell people how to start a side hustle, how to pay off their student loans. And, as I'm on my journey of building wealth, I want to sort of document that as well, so people can how to do that. I want to say, I'm totally well off and super wealthy. I'm sort of beginning there, especially after paying off my student loans. But I just wanted to document my journey. And then also what sort of inspired me is I had 2 clients in my podcasting business, and they make about $100,000 a month or more blogging. And I realized that looking at them and seeing their lifestyle, I think that's something that I would like to have eventually. And running the business that I have now, it's totally client-based. And I realized that I want to start a new company, and I wanted to have three things that go along with it. One, no employees, no clients, and can make money at any time, where I don't have to go on the phone and sell. And I purchased their course, and I said, you know what? I tried to start a blog in the past. I haven't been successful, but I'm going to purchase their course. I believe it was about $300, and I'm going to follow it down to a T. I'm going to do exactly what they say, and I'm going to try to build up this blog. And my goal for the first year is to get it to a place where it's, making $1,000 a month. And then in the second year, get to it's probably making about $10,000 a month. But again, it's something that's challenging. And I think I'm always wanting to challenge myself, because at this point in the podcasting space, in the podcasting business, I felt like, especially in the last 3 years, I know a lot about the industry. I've been in it for a while, and I'm looking for sort of that next thing that can wake me up in the morning and can challenge me a little bit more. And again, that's why another reason why I just wanted to start this new project going into the new year.
Well, congratulations on constantly growing and constantly taking the next step. I know you do a lot in the world of self-development. Can you share a little bit about that?
Self-development has definitely been one of the biggest benefactors when it comes to building success. And it starts with a morning routine and setting that up. It's, making sure that you meditate, making sure that I journal, making sure that I read, always having those 3 things done and right out of the way. And then when you go into the world of personal development, you learn about the power of cold showers. And I can tell you, especially being in Massachusetts, the last thing I want to do in winter, I think today it was like 20 degrees out, is I want to hop in the shower when it's freezing cold. But I do it, and I find that it builds a little bit more resistance, builds a little bit more will for myself. And you look at the people in the personal development space, most people live their lives they wake up in the morning, they get up, they go about their day. And I think that the personal development space really builds up that routine for you to be successful. And I can tell you, on the days of I wake up or I'm running behind or something's happening, I'm not able to journal or I'm not able to meditate, that day is just not as good. And I think people in the personal development and self-development space really emphasize on building that routine that's going to allow you to be successful. And of course, reading, I know that's a big proponent in the self-development space. And I think anyone that wants to start a business or is thinking about starting a business, it's almost like a necessary. I don't know how anyone could go out there without picking up a book and reading it and just learning from these people that are out there. So I think in the world in the personal development, having a pre-built morning routine and then even a nighttime routine, even if it's not as intrusive, it's definitely going to be helpful on your journey to success.
And that's very true. And I always tell people morning routines, the first step of the morning routine is to create the night routine. Because if you don't have the current night routine, then your morning's already shot before you get started. And you do have to take the time in the morning. I think we're all told to rush, rush, rush. And I think the opposite is true, is to slow down and to get yourself set in the right mood, in the right frame. And then when you do that and you have clarity, everything else becomes easy. I know that happens to me sometimes. Like I get all these notes and I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to do. This is crazy. And then I sit down and I organize it and I realize, oh, there's really not much to do. It's just, it looks messy. I just need to clean it up. And then I go execute. And the next thing you know, I'm done and life is moving on. But you have to take the time to do that. If you're on the hamster wheel, then you never take the time to do that. And it always seems like it's emergency after emergency, which means you should just hit the brakes and reset and figure out what's important.
I think anyone, too, that thinks about building a morning routine, definitely recommend checking out, I believe, Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. That's the book that I read. I try to follow his morning routine that he produces, and I believe he has tons of books out now for like Miracle Morning for real estate agents, investors, entrepreneurs, network marketers, all those sort of things. So he has tons of books out now, but he really goes into how to build a successful morning routine. So I definitely recommend checking out his books if you haven't already done so.
And so we met at PodMax. How was at PodMax this last time when I was there? He was one of the guest speakers.
Oh, was he? Was he good?
Yeah, of course he's good.
That's what I was hoping you would say.
Yeah, it was great to get to meet him and to hear his backstory. And he, again, has that journey of he's faced a lot in his life that he's had to overcome. And he's been able to do that. But when you also listen to the backstory, there's a ton of work there. It's he's constantly out, doing things, being places, showing up and doing the work. And over time, he's been able to build success. Anything else in the realm of self-development that you'd like to share?
I think more than anything is just try taking cold showers if you haven't already done so. That's probably the hardest thing for me. And that was one of the hardest things to wrap my mind around is taking a cold shower, especially if you live in the Northeast and, in the colder parts of the country this time of year. But again, I found that after doing it for 30 days, it became a little bit easier. Now it's almost like I get in the shower and it's cold and it's second nature and you sort of build up that resilience in your mind. And again, another thing is pushing yourself, whether that's, at least for me, and a big thing is going to the gym every day and always pushing myself, making sure that I work out a little bit harder or lifting a little bit more than the previous day or the previous week when I did those same exercises. So it's always just pushing yourself, always pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is going to pay you a lot when it comes to building your own business.
And that's true. And I don't do the cold showers on a routine basis, but every so often I'll just, after I'm done, I'll turn it all the way down. And after a while, you get used to it. And that happens. I think next week I'm going to go try we finally got a cryo place local where they put you in, I don't even know how cold it, you go in the tank and it's like super sub-freezing temperatures. So we'll see how that goes. It supposedly helps with inflammation and other things. So I'm going to go try that out. That'll be fun. And then for lifting, I have an app called Strong Lifts. It's 5x5 and it's actually pretty cool because you set your routine in Strong Lifts and it times all your reps, but you can also set it that it will also automatically up your weights every week. So when you have success, it adds a couple extra pounds to the bar every week, and it allows you over time to get stronger and stronger. And it's amazing how little teeny steps and you continue to grow, and it's compounding. It works with your money. It works with lifting. It works with growing a business. It works everywhere. These constant proven principles, when you apply them, will get you the success that you want. So we always act for an action step. What is something that people can do this week to move forward?
Number one action step, I would say start reading a book. And the book that I recommend to everyone is called The Wealthy Gardener For those of you who might have not read it, you can go on Amazon. You can purchase it, and that's actually a book I read probably about a year and a half ago at this point. And I honestly think that it's better than Think and Grow Rich. And in that book, to give a little bit of a backstory, it's about this chiropractor. He makes about $100,000 a year, and he wants to figure out how he can build a passive income stream for himself through real estate investing. But I think he can apply to entrepreneurship as well. And he talks about his journey over, I believe it's 20 or 25 years, and now he's making about $200,000 a year in passive income. But the book is written through parables to his son, so there's stories, and he goes into the stories. And I really think it's probably one of the best business books that I read. And if I could go back to the first book that I read in business, I wish I had read that one first. I really do think it came out probably only 2 years ago, so it's relatively new. So first action step, what I would say, go to Amazon, go purchase the book, read it, devour it. It's the only book I think I've ever read where I read it once and then read it again right after I read it, just because it was so good.
And you can learn so much from reading. Other people put 3 years of their time and effort and knowledge, and it sounds like he had a lifetime of knowledge, and he puts it into a book that's relatively inexpensive, and you get to walk away with how to build wealth over time. And that's an excellent action step. It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
I would say my secret to living an abundant life is realizing that there's always going to be people that can help you. There's always going to be more money that you can make, and realizing that there's people that just want to support you. And I think in business, I used to have a scarcity mindset that there's only so many clients that I could have, there's only so much money I could make, but realizing that there's infinite possibilities out there, and that even if you have competitors in your space, I always thought competitors were bad, but I realized that at least in the business space that I'm currently in, I know that there's enough clients to go around that we can all be successful, and realizing that just because you're successful doesn't mean that someone else can't be successful. So that was really my abundant mindset, was realizing that there's just enough to go around, and that it's okay if my competitor gets a client because I'll get another client. And again, there's enough money to go around to make you successful, and you can't live in that sort of scarcity mindset where you can't afford it, where you try to figure out how you can afford it. And I believe Robert Kiyosaki talked about that in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And again, that's another great book to read, but realizing that there's just enough out there for you to be successful, and you can't really let other people and what they're doing take away from that.
And that is so true. I can't tell you how many times I've had my competitor on the podcast to share their story. I don't care. Like, you'll connect with me. You might connect with them. At the end of the day, I'm helping. And whoever is the best solution for you, that's the person that you'll go do business with. And it makes life so much easier when you're not fighting against everyone. And it's like, hey, it's a big world. We can all succeed together. Now, this question might be a little difficult. What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
Well, being 23, I'm not too far along, but it would definitely, again, I would say it goes back to that self-education. I going into high school, I would read the books that you'd get in English class, but I probably used, I think it was called Spark Notes. So you like the brief chapters of the books. So I never really read books, and it wasn't until I was in college and on my own that I started reading business books, and that opened my eye to a whole different world. And when you can, I'm sure, as you mentioned today, Rocky, you can distill someone's 5, 10, 30-year journey even further in their life into a 200-300 word page book, and that you can learn from them for a price of $10, $20. It's going to suit you well. So if I could go back and start all over again, I wish that I had started reading earlier, and I wish I had read quite a bit more often than when I had initially started out.
And that's so true. We waste so much time in high school on irrelevant subjects. That's the one thing I learned. That's why I had my kids take a different path and get started much, much faster. If you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Not to let the people in the situation that you're currently in dictate where you're going to go into the future. For myself, I had gone through in high school, my friends took the smarter classes, and I took more of the, I don't want to say dumb classes, but the lower level classes. I didn't score as well in them. on the SATs. I didn't get into the college that they ended up going to. I had to, always sort of be in the background and at a second rate. And I realized that that's not a dictate of how success is going to be in life. Success doesn't care where you went to college. It doesn't care if you didn't do good in high school. All that really matters is how hard you work and sort of actions that you take. And again, if you can create a good product or service that the marketplace wants, none of my clients, I've never hopped on a call and they said, "Oh, where did you go to high school? What was your GPA?" Or even where did you go to college? No one cares about that. So I don't think someone that's 18, if they are in school and they didn't do a good job and their friends are doing a little bit better than them, they shouldn't let that hold them back, because it's up to you and that you have it within yourself to do that hard work and again, take that action that's going to lead you down to the road of success.
And let me guess, right now you're probably ahead of all of them.
I would probably say yes.
Congratulations on that. If people would like to learn more about you, find you, connect, and check out your services, what is the best way for them to do that?
Sure. The best way is just going to be going to our website, which is podcastingyou.com. So it's podcastingyou.com. And then they can feel free to check me out on LinkedIn, social media. That's just under my name, Trevor Oldham, and feel free to connect with me there as well.
And I will put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rocky.
Wasn't that inspiring? Paying off $90K in debt, how he's constantly trying and failing and pivoting. And he's doing this at a very young age. So the question is, what about you? The cool thing is he lives with harmony. He's not trying to have it all. And I got to tell you, that's refreshing. I like that. Bottom line, we got to change our school systems. We need to create more Trevors. This current model is broken, and I'm excited to see what's next. I know there's tremendous change happening behind the scenes. Don't follow everyone else's path. Create your own. It's never too late. You can do things on the side, and if you have kids, involve them. That's what I did. That's what others do. You've heard stories on here. I have to say, government canceling debts is a bad way to go. It sends a very dangerous message that people need to be saved, and it takes away the ability to save ourselves. And that's a problem. It's a moral hazard that we are going to have to face. This week's action step, start reading a book. Trevor suggested The Wealthy Gardener. I have not read it, but I did go check it out, and it's pretty impressive. It's a father having a 2-year conversation with his son about how do you create a wealthy life and what are the things that you need to do. But the underlying thing is, when you're doing the work of creating a garden, while we may plant the seeds and we may provide the water and the nutrition, the plant grows through some miraculous thing on its own, right? And that kind of gets into this bigger part of spirituality in this universe and how it can bend towards you. When you show up and start doing things just start happening. It's amazing. Yesterday I was at an event and it just shocked me how many things just came together out of the blue to my favor. And so it was a lot of fun with that. And we're going to dig deeper into this next week. I've got Don Long on, and we're going to talk about how you are pre-wired for greatness. So the conversation continues. Hey, can you do me a favor? I'm trying to get better guests. And one of the things that has showed up is that the more ratings and reviews that your show has, the more they're willing to come on. And if you could just go and leave a review of the podcast, I would really appreciate that. It will help me make sure that I can connect with even bigger guests for you, and we'll continue the conversation. Thank you and have an abundant week.